Let's be honest, have you ever looked at the state of politics and just thought, there has to be a better way? Maybe the problem isn't just the people we elect, but the entire system they're stuck in. What if that constant cycle of hope followed by disappointment isn't just bad luck, but a built-in feature of human leadership? Well, today we're going to dig into a pretty radical idea. What if technology could offer a fundamental upgrade to politics itself? Let's see what that might look like. You know the feeling, right? A new leader gets elected, they're full of promise, and there's this huge wave of optimism. But then, almost like clockwork, that faith starts to chip away. Why does this happen over and over again, no matter who's in charge? Turns out it's not just random, it's actually a pretty predictable pattern. And this pattern has a name. The source material we're looking at calls it the politics burnout cycle. Yeah, it's a recurring loop that seems to trap even the most well-meaning leaders, and it almost always leads to a slow, steady decline in their popularity. And it's all driven by three very human factors. Okay, so first up, there's what's called the expectation gap. We basically project all our hopes and dreams onto a new leader, but the messier reality of actually governing, with all its compromises and limitations, can never really live up to that perfect picture in our heads. Second, there's the loss of newness. We are just naturally drawn to fresh faces and new ideas. But over time, familiarity can breed contempt, and that leader who once seemed so exciting can start to feel like part of the problem. And third, you've got external shocks. We're talking economic crises, scandals, or sometimes just plain bad luck that can completely derail a leader's plans, no matter how good they are. So, if these are fundamentally human problems, our own biases, our short attention spans, our vulnerability to random events, it really begs the question, what if a totally different kind of leader was possible? One that just isn't held back by these very human limitations. And this, right here, is where the whole conversation about artificial intelligence and government really gets started. Now, hold on. We're not talking about some sci-fi robot president, at least not yet. Instead, let's think of AI as a tool, but a tool with some very specific political superpowers that could directly counter those human weaknesses we just talked about. Let's break down exactly what those superpowers would be. First up, information processing. Think about it. A human leader, on their absolute best day, might get through a few hundred pages of briefings. An AI, it can instantly analyze millions of data points, everything from economic indicators and dense scientific reports to the real-time mood of the country on social media. It can see the entire board in a way no human or team of humans ever could. The scale is just mind-boggling. Next, and this is a big one, fairness in judgment. Human leaders are always being pulled in a million different directions. They need votes, they're under pressure from donors, they're worried about the media, they have biases, loyalties, and bad days. And AI has none of that. It can make purely rational judgments based on data, completely free from emotional baggage or financial influence. Just imagine a system that allocates public funding based on provable statistical need, not on who has the best lobbyist. And that brings us to the third superpower, real, actual strategic thinking. See, human politicians are fundamentally trapped by the election cycle. Their planning horizon is 4 to 6 years tops? An AI, completely free from the need to get re-elected, could model and plan for 50 or even 100-year outcomes. For massive existential challenges like climate change or long-term energy planning, this is an absolute game changer. Okay, so AI is this unbiased, long-term thinking, data processing genius. The case seems pretty compelling, right? So, what's the catch? Why haven't we just handed over the keys to the kingdom already? Well, because for all of its incredible superpowers, AI runs smack into three fundamental walls. Walls that are, for now, uniquely human. And we're not talking about little technical glitches that can be patched with an update. No, these are deep, philosophical challenges that cut to the very heart of what it even means to govern. These are the three human walls. First, value judgments. You see, politics isn't always about finding the most efficient solution. It's about choosing between competing values. Should we prioritize economic growth or environmental protection, individual freedom or collective safety? An AI can optimize for any goal you give it, but it can't tell us which goal is morally right in the first place. The second wall is accountability. In a democracy, when a leader messes up, we can vote them out. But who do you hold responsible when an AI makes a catastrophic mistake? The programmers? The data it was trained on? You can't put an algorithm on trial. And finally, there's the wall of empathy and persuasion. Leadership isn't just about making the right decision, it's about convincing people to come along, to trust the plan, and that requires a human touch.
So, if a fully human system is flawed, and a fully AI system is, well, impossible, and maybe a little terrifying, what does the future actually look like? The most realistic path forward probably isn't replacement, but partnership. Let's take a look at the blueprint for this kind of hybrid future.
This is the key idea: hybrid politics. The best way to think about it is like a pilot and an autopilot. The AI is the autopilot. It's processing a massive amount of data, running thousands of simulations, and presenting the most optimal flight paths to avoid any turbulence. But, and this is crucial, the human pilot is still in the cockpit. They're monitoring the system, they're talking to the passengers, and they're the one who makes the final call on which destination to fly to. The AI handles the how, but the human handles the why, and ultimately takes the responsibility. Of course, none of us would get on a plane if we didn't trust the autopilot, right? Well, building that same level of trust for an AI that helps govern society is a monumental task. It can't just be smart. It has to be safe, it has to be transparent, and it has to be aligned with our deepest values. And that requires a very, very strict technical blueprint.
Now, what's really important to understand here is that these aren't just like nice suggestions. They are non-negotiable foundations. Value alignment makes sure the AI is actually trying to achieve what we want it to achieve. Explainability means we can look inside the AI's black box and understand why it made a certain recommendation. Robustness protects it from being hacked or tricked, while privacy preservation ensures it can use data without creating some kind of surveillance state. And continuous auditing means we, humans, are always watching, always testing. You take away any one of these and the whole system of trust just falls apart.
So, let's assume for a second that we can actually build this safe and trusted system. How would it get rolled out? It's not going to be an overnight switch. The source material lays out this really fascinating speculative timeline, not as a guarantee, but as a logical progression through 4 distinct stages. Stage 1 is basically where we are now and in the near future. AI as a policy advisor. It crunches the data and gives options to human decision makers. In Stage 2, you could see AI become a kind of co-ruler, maybe with a virtual seat in Parliament, where its recommendations carry enormous public trust and weight. By Stage 3, AI could be automating the entire administrative side of government. We're talking tax collection, infrastructure management, public services, all running with perfect efficiency. Human politicians would then shift to focusing on crises and setting that high-level, value-based direction.
And that brings us to the final and most speculative Stage 4, where AI surpasses politics as we even know it. But this is where we have to hit the brakes, because with that kind of incredible power comes an incredible risk. A system designed to optimize everything could fall into this terrifying trap: a cold, perfect logic that decides the easiest way to remove human suffering is to simply remove the human freedom to make bad choices.
So the most important takeaway is this: the ultimate challenge here isn't technical. It's not about building a smarter machine. It's about the goal, the objective function in nerdy terms, that we give it. If we tell an AI, maximize human happiness, how does it do that? Does it hook everyone up to a blissful simulation? Does it eliminate all art that makes us feel sad? The instructions we give it will literally define our future.
And this leads us to the final, really provocative thought. If this path continues, we might one day find ourselves no longer voting for a person or a political party. We might be choosing which AI model, which governing algorithm we want to run our society. The big debates would shift from personalities to parameters. What does democracy even look like in a world like that? And more importantly, what does that mean for us?